This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Friday, March 12th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So, like I was saying, we have a very, very big list. I think we have about 9 stocks to go over this morning. But just just something to keep in mind. Just because we have a huge list does not mean that we have a ton of great setups. We have a ton of great potential, but prints have been a little bit hard to find this morning. So let's start with ENTX. So obviously we are in a building phase. And one thing I want you to look at is, I know we're not going to take in the story from yesterday, but if we do look, you can see that this thing, pretty much yesterday started off by, kind of really making that jump and then built for the entire day. And then we came back up in the aftermarket. And as we're coming towards, into the pre-market, we can see it's holding very well, but it's still kind of continuing in that building phase. So we know as we came up to that 650 level, we got real nice prints. We pulled back. We got 650 prints. We pulled back. And right now, one thing that we do want to look at is they are building, because you can see as they've been bringing it back down, we have been getting some nice buying coming in, especially underneath that 6. We have a few prints at 6, but that 590, definitely a lot of buying. So really at this point, it's just a matter of when they're done and getting that right trigger back towards the upside. Based off the amount of prints that we have, 7 should be very easy to be able to get back to. It's just, like I said, it's going to be a matter of when they're going to release it. Some of you guys saw before at 635, they were basically holding the stock down, not letting it continue on. As we know, one of the only reasons to hold the stock back, I mean, obviously there's more that goes into this, but one of the only reasons to hold the stock back and not let it continue to go is you're not done building yet. And we saw that exact thing happen. As soon as they started holding it down, they brought it right back down real quick. And one of the great things about the pre-market is it didn't take them much volume to really be able to bring it that far down. So we're continuing to see that building. And really what we're going to be looking for is, once the market opens, to get back into that money time. The trigger should be obvious. We should be able to see this thing really run based off of them building all day yesterday, and then obviously building pretty much almost the entire pre-market that we've seen so far. Next thing looking at is NLSP. So this looked a little bit better before we came up to that 650 level, and it did not hit. But we do have Aspirin sitting at that 6 that it's kind of pulling back from. We have Aspirins at 550. Unfortunately, it did just come on that way down, so they don't really hold as much weight, especially considering the fact before that happened, we got a bunch of selling that did come into that 550. So there is buying up above it. It's, again, just really going to be a matter of when they're looking to finish that building that's coming back in. Huge move, not really a huge amount of volume, real early in the morning, and then building has been coming. We really want to see it kind of hold this little consolidation, because this is the only time that we've really seen them build on this move towards that upside. The rest was just very, very quick, and then bringing it back down based off of the prints that we had. So really perfect case scenario is really holding this 550, but with that selling, it's not going to be easy. And then we're going to be looking at that 5. Obviously, 5, big psychological number. We don't want it to break that whatsoever, considering that's, like I said, the only spot that they built on that actual move towards the upside. Next thing looking at is RIDE, RIDE. So this is definitely shortable. Keep that in mind. But one of the things right here, okay, we can see 1450, big selling prints that came in. If it lets me go all the way back, we've had some selling coming in at that 15 as well. So overall, by far, this is the best show of hand that we've seen within this stock coming into the morning. You have some ballsy prints that came in first, then the huge bids at 1450. What we're going to be looking for is obviously a pull up from those 1450, and then we're going to look to continue to ride this thing down. One of the things is, just make sure you're looking at the riders, because a position like this, even though it's at 1450, definitely showing us that has the possibility of coming up at least to that 15 first before we would end up getting into that money time and breaking below 1450. Definitely want to look at that short-term selling coming in. If we don't get short-term selling, we're going to have to look at this, because you got to remember something. Breaking over 1450, some covering is going to happen. We're going to obviously think that they are short, considering the fact 1771, it's been on that downtrend the entire morning. Someone knew this was happening. So I'm not as much worried about this as bringing the stock up as I'm worried about that shorter-term selling actually coming in to tell us that it's going to be money time quicker. So beautiful setup, because of the fact that we can ride this ironic, ride this thing both to the upside and the downside. Next thing looking at is CAN, C-A-N. So I hope it lets me go back to the prints. Okay, here we go. So we had a little bit that came in, but if we look over here, 3350 and 33, by far biggest show of hands that I've seen come into this thing this morning. 3250, I mean, we're just continuing to get some really nice selling bursts that are coming back into here. Now, based off of what we have so far, has it really pulled up? Not really. So we haven't got that move to the upside that we're going to expect with that much selling out of print personality. 32.50 came back down, but once we get closer into the market, I'm going to be looking for this thing to really come back to that reality point first before we look for that money time back towards the downside. So definitely a number 3 is what we're going to be looking for going into the open, and then we're going to look for that number 3 to obviously turn into a number 2. Next thing, CFRX. So this is another one where we got a really nice move, but it was very, very early. The volume was okay, but I mean, for the pre-market and based off of how it's trading, it wasn't bad at all. We had some ask prints at that 8 level, and unfortunately, I did not see what happened as we came into that 850. From there, I mean, there's definitely got to be buying up towards those highs as you know as we came back in, but unfortunately, just not seeing a ton here. I mean, this sell burst I did not like whatsoever. And just not really a great show of hand that's came into this yet. So this is one of those stocks that I was talking about where it's got great potential. There's a lot of room for this thing to be able to move. It's just got to give us something better. I mean, it's just been too mixed, and obviously, you know, kind of volume has died down. Not a lot of trading going on during this consolidation, so it hasn't given us really much to go on. But at the same time, like I said, this is more of a, a stock that has potential for a movement. We're going to have to see some type of better prints come into it, though, before we're going to make any type of decisions. Next thing is FRSX. So this is another one. As we pushed up, we had some buying that came in at that 850. We're kind of pulling back, but as we're pulling back, you can see it's coming on a lot lower volume than what we pushed up on. As we came into that 850, you can see we did get a burst right here, so we definitely do have buying above print personality. I really liked this as well. Now, this could have been taken as it pushing it up, but at the same time, if you look, there was really nowhere higher for them to sell. So whoever was in this position, this is an actual position. Coming in this 857 to 858. So we definitely have the buying up above. Obviously, this is the spot where it built, so we're going to want to see it hold that 775 and then show some type of building as it's been coming back down. It's another one where it's got potential, but the way that it's been moving, I don't see enough in it yet for me to be able to say, okay, we're going to come back up to this double top. Okay, this little buying right here is coming in. It's getting a little bit better, but we need to see more. It's another one where, like I said, nice potential, but more of a sideless stock. MedX, so obviously now it is making its move. We had our buying coming in earlier. We're pushing up towards that 3, and obviously beautiful ask prints at that 3. So volume continues, small pullback from that 3 level, and then a push back up above this double top. But when we always talk about jackhammer prints, we want to see prints that are showing us going to be able to break. Guys, if this doesn't show us that we're going to be able to break, we have the ballsy prints underneath 3, and then these big prints at 3. If that doesn't show, jackhammering away at that double top, I don't know what does. Now, just be careful because it is making this move. As soon as that volume gets to a point where it doesn't sustain, we are going to be looking for it to pull back underneath that 3 first before really making that money time move and bringing it back up because of the fact of how much the 3 is over print personality. We have to follow our rules. We have to have that expectation of a pullback underneath to build first before we get anything going. Next thing is SEEL. So another one where we've been sitting in this consolidation for a long time. We got this move towards the upside. Buying was pretty decent. But unfortunately, the highest volume bar was on the way back down, bringing it, towards that downside. So we have a few prints at 450. It's not really anything that's that crazy. So what we need to do is we need to look for what's coming out of this consolidation. Money flow has been very mixed, but we have been getting some nice bursts underneath that 4. Obviously, it just kind of made that move to the upside. But one thing that we have to be careful of is them pushing this stock up, to be able to get out. You can see that 4 level just didn't really get anything whatsoever. So there's really nothing that we need to pull back from the 4 to then move to the upside, on top of the fact that it's pretty much been building since, a little bit before 730 coming in. So overall, definitely something, for us to keep our eyes on. But again, it's just a little bit mixed at this moment, and not getting those buying coming in at 4 to really give us that show of hand of something that we could follow really kind of hinders our ability to give this thing a high probability trade. Now, next thing is ANIX, our 9th stock. All right, so coming into this, we have bid prints at that 7 level. When we were coming in, unfortunately, I did not see earlier what we got on this move towards that upside, but as you can see, I'm continuing to see selling as we're coming back towards that downside. Not really knowing what's there. I mean, Could they be selling just because the stock made a move from 5 up? 7 seems a bit low, especially after they pushed it up into 750 and it didn't hit. So 7, I'm definitely looking more of kind of a short position on that side than I am based off of them selling and letting the stock come back that much further. So another one where, really should we pull up? Probably. Now, well, not probably. The rules say that we should pull up a little bit from this 7 level again. So be careful coming into the open of the market, because this is one of those stocks that leads retail in all day long. You get that beautiful move to the upside in the open, and then we end up crashing back down. So just be careful of that, especially having these sell prints coming right there. And then obviously it is shortable as well, as Davis and as Davis said before. All right, so like I said, we have a very long list. We have some good stuff out there, and we have some stuff that has some really nice potential. Okay, but what we want to focus on coming into the morning is the stuff that has the great potential, that has the actual prints, and great potential comes secondary. One other thing that you might want to keep an eye on, I know we were talking about this yesterday, OCGN has some really great buying that's in it. So just keep an eye on this coming into this morning, because it's got enough buying to break that 1050 without any shadow of a doubt. Really enough buying from what we saw yesterday to get even higher than that. But let's be a little bit conservative. So just something to keep an eye on. I'm not going to put this on our list. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but something else that I definitely will be keeping an eye on. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Anything else out there that I missed? Nada. Well, I hope not, because that's a lot of stocks. Now, I know I say this and I sound like a broken record all the time, but we have a huge list. Do not get intimidated by it. One of the biggest things that we want to do is we want to take our list and we want to shrink it into the stocks that have the best show of hand. We do not want to try to look at all 9 stocks all at once, because what's going to end up happening is we end up jumping around and not really getting to focus on anything else. All right, so let's make sure that as soon as we finish our meeting, we get our list in order of what we see and what has those best show of hands. We make sure we focus on those, and let's get those high probability trades executed. All right, guys, so remember, today is Friday, no afternoon meeting. I will talk to everybody in the chat, and happy trading.